All right, we'll now take a look at making a second sketch. So as before, I'm going to click on New, create a new part. The units for this one are inches, so my default of inch pound second will keep. I'm going to go to the Sketch tab, select Sketch, and I'll again utilize the front plane. Now what I'm going to do is just move my location of my origin over. So again, doing that, I'm holding the Control key and the middle mouse button down, allowing me to pan the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create basically a skeleton that's going to locate these 5 circles, the 5 circles that all have a diameter of 0.75, an implied relationship between these circles and these outer curves that have the radius of 0.63 are that they are concentric to each other. So I'm going to go to the line tool, select center line, and I'm going to select a line. I'm going to come straight down, and I'm also going to go up a little bit. So I'm actually making 2 distinct lines here. The reason is because I want the center point, the origin, to be in the middle of these lines. So what I have now is I'll do one more, but this time I'm going to click center line. I'm going to come over here to the left hand side, select horizontal and midpoint, and what I'm going to do is I will select the top point and come across, and I'll say OK of my line properties. I'll again do horizontal midpoint, and I'll do one on the bottom. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some dimensions in. So going to my Smart Dimension tool, I'll see that from the origin to the bottom line is going to be 2.13. So I'll put that in as being 2.13 inches. And then from the bottom line to the top line is going to be 2.25. So I'll select the top line and the bottom line, and I'll make that 2.25. And now we see that the reason why I did the midpoint lines is because that's the way the dimensions are given to me. So I'll put in the 2.5 dimensions. So from the vertical line to this point, that distance will be 2.5. And from the center line, the vertical center line to this point, I'll make that distance 3. I'll hit escape to get out of the dimension tool, and we can see that my sketch is fully defined. All right, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and zooming in 5 points that will locate those circles for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to put out these the circles that are going to form my radius of 0.63. So I'm going to use my circle tool, and I'll select once, twice, 3, and 4. I'm going to now nothing's selected. I'm going to hold my control key down. I'm going to select all 4 of these circles with the intent of making them equal to each other. Let go of the control key, and from the pop-up I'm going to say make equal. And then what I'm going to do is go to my Smart Dimension. I'll select one of the circles. I'll come out here, and we'll note that the call out is radius 0.63, so I'm going to need to do 2 times 0.63, which I can just type in. So I'll go 2 times 0.63, gives me the dimension of 1.26. Now if I want to show that as a radius, I can right click on the dimension, and you'll see from the pop-ups here I have the option of displaying it as a radius or a diameter, so I'll say display that as a radius. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I have vertical line or horizontal lines that connect these circles. So I'm going to go to my line tool, and notice when I come close to and hover over the circle, you'll see that the 4 quadrants, there's little diamonds that show up. Those are clickable points. So I'm going to click here, and zooming out and zooming back in, I'm going to click the same point on this circle and hit escape to get out of the line tool, and you'll see that this line is fully defined now. I'll do the same thing on the bottom line, the bottom 2 circles. So hover over until that point shows up, select the bottom quadrant point, and do the same thing on that circle. And then I can double click even to end the line tool. So I can hit escape, I can double click, multiple options. The line tool is still active, so I'm going to hit escape here. And now what I need to do is I need to put these curves in. So I'll do one option over here. What I'm going to do is utilize this. I'm going to use a variation of the circle. I'm going to do the drop down, and I'm going to use the perimeter circle. So that allows me to draw a circle by 3 points. So the first point is going to be onto this circle. The second point is going to be onto this circle, and the third point is just going to be some other location. Now, I could leave it like this, but if I want to make it looking more like that, I can go to the trim tool. So I'll come here under the sketch tab, under trim entities. Going to use the power trim, which says hold down and drag your cursor across the entities. So I'll just holding my left mouse button down, I'll drag across the line, and that gives me my arc. And you'll note that the arc is tangent at both of those locations. So all I need to do to finish this, to fully define the arc, is to put in the radius, which is showing as 2 by R.88. So they're telling us that this and this have the same dimension, and the radius is 0.88. So I'll go to my Smart Dimension tool, click on that arc, and put in the dimension as being 0.88. For the other side, what I'll do, I accidentally used my middle mouse button, so I've rotated out of plane here. So how do I get back to my regular view? Well, I could do it up here. I could say I want to go back to my front view. That's one option. Another way of doing it is I've rotated out. You'll see that I'm editing Sketch 1 right now. If I use my left mouse button to click on Sketch 1, I have an option to make my view normal to the sketch, and that's what I want. So what I'm going to do is utilize my Control and my middle mouse button to pan, and what I'm going to do is utilize the arc tool. So I have different types of arcs. So instead of the center point arc, I'm going to utilize the 3-point arc. I'm not the tangent arc, the 3-point arc. So my first point of my arc will be on this circle, my second one will be on this circle, and the third is just dropping the arc. And you'll note that when I do that, my arcs are not automatically tangent to the circles. So to do that, I need to hold my Control key down, select the arc and this circle, let go of the Control key, and select tangent, and do the same thing down here. Arc, hold the Control key down, circle, and select tangent. So now since I already have a dimension on one of them, I'll make it equal over here. I don't need to put in a new dimension. Just holding the control key down, select this arc and this arc. Nope, I didn't select the arc, I select the midpoint of the arc, so let me deselect. Just clicking anywhere deselects everything. Select the arc and the arc, holding the control button down, let go of the control button, and set those equal to each other. So you can see at this point my sketch is fully defined. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in 5 new circles that will have the diameter of 0.75. So I'll go back to my circle, not the perimeter circle now, the regular circle, and zoom in. I'll select once, twice, the third circle, the fourth circle, and the fifth goes on the origin. So I'll zoom out, and then I'll hold my control key down, selecting all of these circles. I will make them equal to each other, and I will use my smart dimension to set the diameter of these to be 0.75. Okay, so I now need to make this interior bit, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that as a secondary feature after I extrude this. So instead of making it just a straight sketch, which I could do, I want to show you how I'm going to make an actual part out of this. I could utilize the trim tool and come in here and trim out each one of these circles. But that's a little laborious, and sometimes you break things when you do that. So I'm going to hit the Control Z to put that back. And instead of doing that, I'm just going to go to the Features tab, go to my Extrude, and you'll note that when I do this, the Property Manager shows the boss extrude, but this option for select contours is showing up as being baby blue, which means it's pre-selected for me. So it's expecting me to select which contours I want to extrude. So I come in here and I hover over the contours that are possible, and the ones I want to extrude are this one, these two over here, and the main one in the middle. And I can pull my arrow out here to make sure I got everything. I'll set my distance here to be 0.75. There's nothing on the sketch to tell me what the thickness should be, so I'm just doing a regular sketch. You can see the 5 contours that are in the selected contours region. Each one of them are individually pickable, and I'll say OK. Alright, so now I need to make this interior bit. So how do I do this? Well, I'm going to make a new sketch onto the face of this part. So I'm going to go to my sketch toolbar, select sketch. It says now select a plane or planar face on which to create the sketch entity. So I'll select this face. SOLIDWORKS automatically turns the view towards me. To make it easier to see, I'm going to come up here under the view, the heads up toolbar, go to my display style and turn off the shaded view. I'll just go hidden lines removed. Makes it a little bit easier for it to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 circles now. They're both centered on this point. So here's one circle. Here's the secondary circle. Then I'm going to utilize my line tool to go from the center point out to here. Double click to end the line. My line tool is still active. Go from this point to here. double click the end align tool, and then go from here directly down in the vertical direction. Double click the end align tool, and I'll hit escape to get out of the tool. Why did I add this third line in? Because I want this to be a center line that I'm going to then make these two symmetric about. But you'll notice that it's not drawn as a center line or construction, so I'm going to select that line, and then from the pop-up menu here, there's an option that allows you to toggle from regular geometry to construction geometry. So I select that tool, and you can see that this is now a construction line. So a couple things. First thing I'm going to do is hold my control key down. I'm going to select this line, that construction line, and this line. And then when I let go of the control key, the option I'm going to do is make symmetric. So by choosing a center line, I can make objects symmetric about that line. So I'll choose symmetric, and then I'll go to my smart dimension, and I'll go ahead and select this line and the vertical line, and I can set that angle to be 60 degrees. Now I want to go to the two other dimensions, so it's radius of 2.5 and a radius of 0.75. So in this case, I'll just show you I can use the trim tool, so I'll use my trim entities. I'll trim that out, and I'll trim this out. So now these are full arcs, so when I put the dimension on, they will show up as radiuses. So the larger radius is going to be 2.5. The smaller radius is going to be 0.75. So now there are 3 areas that are fully defined, but I'm only going to utilize this one as being the contour that I'm going to use to create the cut. Now again, I know that I need to put these fillets in, but I'm going to leave those as a separate feature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Features, go to Extruded Cut, so not an extruded boss, an extruded cut. And again, you'll see that SOLIDWORKS will bring up the selected contours, showing me that there's multiple contours that I have that I can select. So I'm going to select these 2 bottom contours. And the depth of cut now, instead of it being blind, which would be to a certain depth, I want this hole to always go all the way through my part. So I'll choose the option of being through all, and I'll say OK. So now I'm going to go back to my display and show it as shaded. So that's what my shading looks like. And now the last thing I have is the 4 edges here, or these corners, have to have a radius of 0.38. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the fillet tool. So I'm on the Features toolbar. So there is a fillet tool in the Sketch toolbar. I tend not to use that. When I put fillets in, I like them to be actual features that will show up on my feature manager. So I'm going to go to the fillet tool here. I want the option to be full preview turned on. By default, SOLIDWORKS always does it as no preview. You want to select the full preview. I want to set the radius to be 0.38. And then I want to come in here and I'll select the different edges. So that's the first edge, second edge, the third edge, and the fourth edge. But say you accidentally select the face. Once you do that, it'll break. It can't do that. So you can come over here and it says items to fillet. You can see I had 3 edges and 1 face. I can just right click on that face and say delete. So I'm all back together, and I can come here and select my 4th edge. And once I do that, I'll say OK. and we can double check if our part looks the way it's supposed to. I'll hit Control 1 to give myself my front view, Control and middle mouse button to pan it a little bit, and we can compare the sketch to the actual part. So I hope you enjoyed this part, and try making it on your own. Let's take a look at, under the Evaluate tab, under Mass Properties, the volume should be 10.57 cubic inches. The surface area should be 59.45 square inches. And your center of mass, well, the X direction is 0 because you're right in, it's symmetric, and the Y is -0.74.